Hey everybody, it's Brandon. I'm back again here today in the Root Cellar. Today we are going to talk about the first things you want to learn how to draw. And in short, they are lines, ellipses, cylinders, and cubes. Now these may seem kind of very basic and silly. You may be thinking, hey, I want to get on to doing wizards and robots and drawing my persona, but you really need to start with these four shapes. This is the foundation of what we call construction. And construction is constructing anything from your imagination out of very, very simple shapes. So to be fair, I also recommend that beginners do a hefty amount of what I call observational drawing, or drawing from life. And I've talked about this before. I'm going to talk about it again in the future. So these things should kind of really be done in concert, but this is really the first stuff that you should learn how to draw, that you're really drawing just from your mind. So I recommend spending some time with this every day. I would spend half an hour at least with these exercises. You can spend more, and you're going to see that they start out very, very simple, but you can start putting them together and making them more and more complex, and really you can build these simple shapes into anything you want to. So these are also excellent warm-up exercises for an artist with more experience. It's really good to lock down these and spend some time with these, and I can show some kind of more complex variations with these. Now you're going to see in this video that I am literally warming up, and so I'm not always the greatest at doing these, but they're still incredibly important, and I still try to do them as much as I can, and I personally get a lot of benefit from them, so I hope you find them helpful too. So without further ado, let's get started.
Okay, today we're going to talk about the very fundamental things you want to learn how to draw. So for this today, I'm just using an ordinary cheap ballpoint pen. You can use a pencil. I think pencil or a ballpoint pen is probably best for these types of exercises. Other types of pens just leave too heavy of a weight on them. So as I explained, we are going to talk about just doing some very simple shape drawing that then we can use for building into more complex shapes. And this is the foundation of what we call construction. And what we're going to start with, the first one we're going to start with is straight lines. So these are exercises that are very common to technical drawing. So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to start here we're doing straight lines. I've got two lines here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to want to move my pen between the two of them just to kind of practice what I'm doing. And I've also, you can't see it, but I've got my elbow anchored. So I'm trying to keep, my hand is trying to keep it relaxed but immobile, and then I just want to try to connect these lines. So I'm going to kind of move it over, trying to practice the line. Then I'm going to try to connect them. So not too great of a first one. Let's try again. A little bit better. All right. All right, we're just going to keep doing this, just drawing some straight lines. All right, missed the dot on that one. A little bit curvy there. All right, so that's kind of the process. You can see we could keep going. I could keep doing pages and pages of this, and I'd recommend that. That last one is pretty good. That was probably my best one. So I can go through now and check it with a straight edge and see how I did. You can see some of these are a little bit curved. Some aren't perfectly straight, but even these lines that aren't perfectly straight, they are totally usable if I am sketching something out. They're close enough to straight that they will work. There's other things I can do as well. I can do it without the dot and just kind of draw a straight line and then try to draw another one kind of parallel to it. That's another great exercise, and try to keep continuing it with just keeping them kind of parallel to each other. And you can see again, these lines aren't perfectly straight, but they're close enough to kind of to be usable. And see, I'm just kind of going slow. See that one, you can see I got a little bit too close. There's a little bit too close to each other. So let's start over. Just a nice straight line like that. And again, we can come back with the ruler, straight edge, and kind of check. So you can see there's a little bit of curve to the top of it. That one's pretty good though, even kind of going slow. So that's drawing straight lines. That's kind of the first thing we learn. So you can practice like this. You can do the dots farther apart. That's a little bit more of a challenge, like so. And the other thing you can do is once you start doing these lines like this, you can start trying to create shapes out of the lines. So like I can create like a little 3 dots, like we're going to do a triangle, and then I'm just going to connect the dots. You see how I'm turning my paper as I do this? That's because this angle here is really the best angle for me to draw straight lines. Again, I'm keeping my elbow locked. You can see I kind of missed that corner there, but let's do another one. Do other triangles. And as you get more confident with that, you can even just practice doing these shapes without the dots. Just kind of try drawing some triangles with straight lines like that. But you see how I'm not doing this. I'm not making them fuzzy. I'm very much trying to get that single motion. And I can even slow down the motion a little bit, but it's still the same motion. Okay, so that's straight lines. Let's move on to ellipses. The cursed ellipse. Ellipses are very challenging to draw. I mean, for me, I think for anyone they can be. Some people are great at them. I showed this exercise to my wife, and she seemed like she was just banging out great-looking ellipses really quickly. But anyway, I find them very challenging. So approaching ellipse is very similar to doing lines. An ellipse, it's like a little circle, right? So I'm going to try to draw. An ellipse is a squash circle, and so we're just going to try to draw these ellipses. Again, we keep our elbow as anchored as we can, and just try to draw these squash circular shapes. Then again, you go back and check them. The way you can check an ellipse is you can draw kind of a line down the connecting the shortest end, and kind of imagine if you fold it over, whether they would match up very well. Like that. And by the way, I should give credit where credit's due. I learned all this stuff from the work of Feng Zhu and Scott Robertson. So I'm starting to get a little bit wider circles. You can certainly look up their work as well. But hopefully I can just kind of show you my take on it a little bit. So that's ellipses. There is also the other thing you can do. Again, we can practice our straight lines. We're going to draw 2 kind of parallel straight lines. Then we're going to fill them in with ellipses, starting with very thin ellipses, making the ellipses thicker till we get to circles. Let's do another line. No, it's not perfectly parallel. Circle. Oof, that one sucks. Try to get them a little bit more squash now. So on and so forth. So that's kind of the idea with practicing ellipses. Okay. So let's talk about first doing cubes. So we talked about doing these simple shapes with our lines, like we can do little triangles. So now let's talk about doing cubes. The trick with cubes is kind of understanding the perspective that the cube is sitting in. And so we're going to start by doing that as simply as possible. We're going to start by doing kind of 3 parallel lines. You can see how they're a little bit offset. It doesn't matter really where they end because I'm going to connect them with other lines. Now, one thing to remember with this, I'm making a cube. These are 3 edges of a cube. The vanishing point to this cube is down here. That's just what I'm thinking. And we're not going to really see that at the moment right now because the lines are parallel, but this is important to think about for later as we do other cubes. Now I'm going to start connecting the edges. I'm going to draw the next line to finish this plane. And you can see I'm going to draw a line that's going to be basically parallel to this line on the bottom. Do it again on this side. This time we're going in a different direction. And again, the last one is going to be basically parallel. Okay, and then let's finish the top. So the top, you can see I've already done these 2 edges. The top is going to be a 3rd edge that's going to be parallel to these other 2. And then the very last edge we're going to draw, we have these 2. It's going to be parallel to this last one. All right, that's not actually perfectly right. Let me just see if I can fix that. That's a little better. All right, so you can see what's going on. We have 3 sets of 3 lines that make up any cube. So we've got the 3 going this way, we've got the 3 parallel going this way, and we've got 3 parallel going this way. So when you draw these cubes, you can keep them totally parallel like this if you would like to. But you can also start thinking about the cube in perspective. And what that means is each group of those 3 lines, we are going to suggest that they're moving towards a vanishing point. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to draw 3 lines just like this. So they're moving towards this vanishing point. Make sure I'm thinking of this right. That means this is going to be the top here. All right, so now I'm going to start making the top of this cube. And already by doing these 2 lines, I've indicated where my other vanishing points are going to be. So here's my first 3. Now let's do these 2 here. Let's do it the other way. Now I've got 2 more edges to finish this cube. So 1, 2, I've got 1 more line over here that should be going the same direction as these 2. Let's see, kind of something like this. And 1 more going this way. All right, so that's it. I know it sounds a little bit complex, but these will become easier and easier as you do it. And like, this isn't a perfect cube. This really is, obviously, this is kind of more like a flattened box. Start though with kind of the parallel cube where things are all kind of parallel together. Then you can move into thinking more about trying to get perspective going in your cube. There's lots of ways you can start it. You can start it with a single plane. I'm going to start this one with a single plane. Then I'm going to just draw 3 lines, kind of go into perspective. And then the last 2 lines I have need a match. 1, 2, 3. These need a match. And then on this side, this one needs to match as well. Like that. And that's the idea with cubes. All right, let's look at ellipses, or not ellipses, cylinders. Cylinders are built up of lines and ellipses. So let's make a cylinder. I'm going to start actually by doing an ellipse. Let's find a good angle. And then I'm going to draw the ellipse all the way through on the other side. And maybe fix it a little bit. All right, so there's an ellipse, or sorry, there's a cylinder. Let's do one that's a little bit more like that. See, I'm continuing to turn it. There's another cylinder. Let's do one where the cylinder is more facing at us, like that. So we would see kind of the top. Like you can imagine all these are maybe glasses. There's another cylinder. Let's do very, very all right. So one thing to note, these ellipses should always be kind of the same angle, which means they should have the same level of squishness to them. So as you kind of get more used to doing these things too, you can start doing exercises like trying to turn the ellipse that you're drawing. So I've got this ellipse here. I'm going to kind of pretend that I'm turning this cylinder this way. So I'm going to make a little bit more of a wider ellipse, then another wider ellipse down here. So we're kind of imagining this shape in the back, that we're turning it this way. I can continue to turn it like this. The ellipse in the back is probably going to be a little bit bigger. So, and this way we can kind of practice doing cylinders. All right, and I hope that you're starting to see as I do this, all the different ways, and this is a little bit off, and combinations you can use to start building other things. So let's come back and look at our cubes and our cylinders. I hope it's starting to be obvious now. Using this group of simple shapes, you can start making more and more complex shapes. A car is a group of cubes and cylinders. A human body you can think of as a group of cubes and cylinders. So I want to kind of demo just really quickly kind of how you can use these very, very simple lines and objects now to create a more complex shape. So I might speed up. I'm probably going to speed up the video a little bit here. So let's just let's check it out. Okay, so I mean, not the most amazing sketch ever. It's just a really quick sketch of a car, but it should give you an idea of how you can start using these very, very simple shapes to start building more complex objects. And this is nothing compared to the really great technical artists like I said, Scott Braberson or Feng Zhu, but this is good enough to communicate an idea. This is good enough for a storyboard, for layouts in a comic, and I can go and add more detail and get a little bit more complex with this. So I hope this has given you a good sense of these very basic things that you can learn how to draw. Again, lines, ellipses, cubes, and cylinders. Now, you can use these in your own practice. What I recommend is that you run through all these exercises, all these shapes, at least once a day. This is normally what I do for my warm-up before I start working, so it's even a great thing for more experienced artists to do. I would spend at least half an hour if you're beginning doing this, but you could really spend more. This is something you could spend a lot of time doing while you're trying to get better at what you do. It's a great thing to do while you're watching TV, hanging out on the couch, whatever. So that's it. Those are the basic building blocks of learning construction. That's the beginning of learning to draw things, from your imagination. And where you go from there, sky's the limit. You can do so many things with that. And so hopefully in the future, we can go a little bit more detail with how you can do some of those things. So I hope you like that. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you like the video, please like it literally, give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel for more videos. That's it, and we'll talk to you again soon.